शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये दक्षिणामूर्तिसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गणपति बप्पा जय श्री राम। So once, apparently, Valmiki finishes off writing his entire Ramayana, and out of sense of pride, that I have written a great poem, and of course it's a great poem. There's just no doubt about it. He visits Hanuman. Hanuman lives in his abode. He goes and visits Hanuman, and as he enters his garden, Hanuman is writing something on a large leaf, something like a plantain leaf, banana leaf. He's writing something and is busy writing and trying to finish it off. Valmiki enters and he says, Hanuman, see, I finished my Ramayana and I just wanted to show that to you. So Hanuman is kind of busy and he just finishes off and he says, yes, just give me 2 minutes, I'll just finish this off. And he finishes off and then keeps it by the side, and then he comes and meets Valmiki. Valmiki comes and asks, what is it that you are writing? I mean, what is it that you are so busy with? So he said, I was just writing Ramayana as I know. And so Valmiki becomes very intrigued. He says, okay, why don't you show me your Ramayana? So he starts reading it. It is just in 3 or 4 plantain leaves that he has written, entire Ramayana. Valmiki reads it and he starts crying. He says, if this is the quality of Ramayana that you have written, mine is not worth that at all. How is it that you have written such a nice Ramayana? And then suddenly there is a small feeling that he gets. He says, if somebody comes to know that this Ramayana exists, probably people will not even read my Ramayana. That's the feeling he gets. He doesn't voice it. Hanuman, of course, is an all-knowing God, right? So he understands what Valmiki wants to say. He goes, he just tears off all the leaves and he throws it off. He says, this is nothing. This is something that was there in my mind, and this is nothing. It is your Ramayana that will really exist for ages to come. My Ramayana is only for me. It's only for my reading and my consumption. Just something that flowed into me, I just wrote it. Such was Hanuman. Hanuman's bhakti was known for being self-evasive. He will never push himself in the front. He will always keep himself in the back. And thus here, Valmiki Ramayana that is available for us. Of course, a very great poem, an amazing epic. I have already covered the kind of scientific rules with which it was built and how it was written. I will not get into the details. The story I wanted to narrate because a lot of people have written Ramayana. You can just imagine the quality of Ramayana that Hanuman himself wrote. Right? Just to kind of bring that to the fore, I thought I'd just cover that as a story. Today, as we go along, we will try and cover a very emotional portion of Ramayana, which is the Bharat Lila. Right? One has to be emotionally connected to the story, and this is something again I've covered earlier. You have to feel the brother's love. You have to feel the love that Dasharatha had for his son. You have to feel the love between Rama and Sita, and it's a very emotional bonding. So Ramayana, unlike Mahabharata, requires a lot of emotional connect to the story. Mahabharata, the story has got a lot of ups and downs. It's got different flavors, so it's not just emotional. It's got a lot of other flavors that comes up. Ramayana predominantly is bhakti oriented, and hence that flavor of emotion needs to be constantly alive in us. We had covered at a particular time in Ramayana. What I'll anyway do is a quick recap. So we've seen the bark dress that Rama wears, and Sita wears, and Lakshmana wears. Technically, it was not required because Kaikeyi had said that you need to go to the forest and live there for 14 years, and you should not be thinking of a kingdom. He did not have worn a bark dress, but Rama insists. When Kaikeyi gets it, Rama wears it, and he wears it happily, and also asks Sita and Lakshmana to wear it. Now, why does he do that? Because Rama knows how to live in forest. So it's like this: when we go into a corporate, every situation in our life, every place in our life has a particular dress code. In our house, we are in comfortable dress code, right? We are in our t-shirts and in pajamas, comfortable, staying at our home, in maybe even shorts, bermudas, whatever. Now that's not the way we travel outside, right? When we are traveling in a car, or you see bikers go. No, they don't wear that kind of a dress. They wear a different kind of a dress, right? When you are looking at traveling in aeroplane, you wear a different kind of a dress. When you are in corporate, when you are going to the office, you wear a certain kind of, there's a dress decorum. So basically what it means is you have to be a Roman in Rome. When you are going to a particular situation, you need to be able to blend into that. This is one of the important things that are told to tourists. So when tourists go across countries, they are generally told, you already are looking different, right? When we Indians go into a foreign country, we look different. When foreigners come into India, they do look different. So skin color itself makes us look different, but at least in your dress, ensure that you blend into the population. That is one of the advisories that is generally given to tourists when tourists travel. So the idea is that you look the part, you look that when you are getting in the forest, how do forest people live? They don't wear golden ornaments, and they don't look like kingly and princely in their attire. They need to look like as if they are in the forest, and that is the reason they wear that particular dress and they enter. Rama was known to maintain protocol. Again, one of his qualities. This is something again we had covered. They visit Bharadwaj ashram, they enjoy the hospitality of Rishi Bharadwaj for overnight. Then they ask for the address of Chitrakoot, and they proceed towards Chitrakoot. Again, an aspect that I covered, a beautiful part portion in Ramayana. How do they walk? Different poets, different poets have dwelled on different details. Ramayana, the story is something that all of us know. Broad contours is everything that we know. Nothing new, right? But these are the small details that makes it look beautiful. So in the first portion of their Aranya stay, the forest stay, Lakshmana is in the front, Sita is in the middle, and Rama is in the behind. So Rama is protecting, Lakshmana is in the front. The reason why Lakshmana is in the front, because in the first portion they are going to meet a lot of sages, rishis. So Rama's view is that Lakshmana should get all the blessings. While in the second portion, Rama gets in the front because at the time there are going to be a lot of demons who are going to come and attack. So Rama says, I would like to bear the brunt, I would like to bear the risk. Amongst the various rishis that they meet, it's Bharadwaja, Sutikshana, Atri, Sarabhanga, Agastya, Valmiki. So these are the different saints rishis that they meet in their 14 years. They meet a lot of other rishis also. They get into a protective mode, fighting demons. So these are the things that they will end up doing as we go along. So once they settle in Chitrakoot, they find a beautiful place. He has already told, Bharadwaj Rishi has already told of a beautiful place around at the banks of Mandakini. Mandakini is a river, okay? All who are of my age would know that I am not referring to the heroine. So they go to the banks of Mandakini, and then they find a small hilltop, and then they settle there. They build a small hut. Lakshmana is an expert. They have learned it from Vishwamitra and Vasishtha how to build a house in a forest, how to live in a forest, what are the fruits to eat, what are the fruits not to be eaten. So they are almost now expert in that. They build a beautiful hut for themselves. Lakshmana has built a small room for Rama and Sita. There's a beautiful kitchen, a place to sit, eat, and there's a small bench outside. It's a beautiful place. Chitrakoot itself means a beautiful place. That's a literal translation. Picturesque place. Chitra means picture, right? A very beautiful place is what Chitrakoot is. They have a nice vantage point. They have built themselves a good hut. They have a small pond around. There are birds chirping, animals which come and drink water. Rama is in an ecstatic state. He doesn't know his father has died, right? So he's in an ecstatic state. He's saying, such a beautiful nature. Sita, if you are there with me and if Lakshmana is there with me, I don't mind spending my entire life here. That's what he says. Lest he doesn't know that there's a bad news that's going to come now. So they are spending their days happily, beautifully there. We'll leave them there for a while, let them spend some time in happiness. We'll now catch up with what Shatrugna and Bharata are doing at Ayodhya. Bharata and Shatrugna have come back. They have now, Bharata has learned what has actually happened at the entire place. He has understood what his great mother has done, right? As Shatrugna is walking towards, this is an instance why I wanted to cover is because after this, Manthara as a role doesn't appear in the entire Ramayana, okay? Shatrugna is walking from his room on his way to Bharata's room. He finds Manthara coming fully decked up. In all ornaments. She's all happy, right? She's thinking that Bharata is going to get coronated. Her scheme of things is already worked. Rama is already gone. Dasharatha is dead. So she's very happy. She's all decked up. The old lady decked up herself in a lot of ornaments and she's walking. She's a hunchback, okay? So she's like this, she's walking slowly. Shatrughna meets her and is all rage. He is so angry that he holds her and he drags her into Bharata's room. And he removes his sword and is about to slay her. Bharata comes and stops. He says, what are you doing? First of all, she's a lady, you just can't do this. Okay, that is first. And secondly, what is the mistake? She says, she is the reason why we are in this distress, why our father is lost and Rama and Sita and Lakshmana are in the forest. Bharata is into a contemplative mood. So Bharata asks him, is it really cool? Is it really Manthara because of whom we are like this? He puts his sword down. Shatrughna says, no, is it not? Then is it Kaikeyi? Because of whom we have come across this, because she asks for those two boons. Bharata says, is it really Kaikeyi? So then he again asks, no, it should be Dasharatha, it should be our father. He gave those boons, and that is the reason Kaikeyi could ask those boons. So then he says, is it really Kaikeyi? Then Shatrughna is all confused. Then who is it? Rama and Sita because they agreed to go. No, it is me. I took birth, which then put the seed of thought into my mother's mind that I should get the kingdom. So it is my birth which is the cause of everything. If you have to kill, you have to kill me, is what Bharata says. I'll just spend quickly a few minutes because we are in that juncture. What does word Bharata mean? Bharata means a person who bears the brunt, the burden. Bharata means wo jo bhar ko sahle. Okay, that is Bharata. A person who can bear the burden of responsibility, bear the burden of dharma, bear the burden of service, but with elegance, with a smile, with as if he is doing his duty and gracefully. That is what Bharata means. Nammalvar, one of the famous 12 Alvars. Now, just like we have Varkari saints in Maharashtra, South India had a lot of Vaishnava and Shaivite, similar set of band of saints. The Shiva saints were called as, the Shaivites were called as the Nayanmar. There are 63 Nayanmars, and the Vaishnava saints were called as Alvars. Okay? Alvar means those who are immersed. The word Alva means somebody who is immersed. What are they immersed? They are immersed themselves in the bhakti of Vishnu. That is what it means. That is what somebody who is immersed totally in the bhakti of Vishnu are called Alvars. One of the famous Alvar is Nammalvar. He has written about Bharata. He says Bharata not only did bear the burden of service, burden of donation, burden of upholding dharma, responsibility, he also had the ability to bear the burden of the blame that so many people put on him. We will know when we go across, we will see how many people have actually put that blame on him. That burden of suspicion, what his mother did, but he had to bear the burden of the entire suspicion. In spite of not having done that mistake, he bore it, and he bore it beautifully and gracefully and still came out of it. And that is why he is Bharata. That is what Nammalvar says. Nammalvar goes on to say, if you were to count, okay, the greatest devotees, the first finger will get pointed. No, not to Narada, not to Hanuman, not to Prahalada, not to Durva. It will get pointed to Bharata, he says. Bharata is the greatest devotee. He says, if you start counting, I hope you can see my fingers. He says, if you start counting, first you need to count Bharata. And the moment you count Bharata in this hand, you cannot count the others. You can't count Hanuman and Prahlad and Narad in this hand. Then you have to allocate this entire hand to Bharata. You can then go on counting as two Hanuman and Prahlad and Durva in the second hand. You can't allocate the fingers in the same hand to Bharata. Bharata will need the respect of the entire hand, he says. It is just not one finger. Such great was his devotion. I have covered this. Nammalvar also had a pasuram. So just like we have Abhanga in Maharashtra, or bhajans, Nirguni bhajans of Kabir and bhajans in North, we have pasuram and Divya Prabandham in South India. So in one of the pasuram, in the Prabandham, Nammalvar actually sings, and he sings Bharata's name twice. This is something that I have covered even while I was covering Samartha Ramdas's story. Tukaram once comes to meet Samartha Ramdas, and Samartha Ramdas says, you've been singing on Vithala all the while. You should sing something on my Rama also. And Tukaram starts off saying, he says, Sundarate dhyana shobhe simhasani vamangi nandani janakachi Dakshinesi Ubha Bandhu Lakshmana, Bharata Shatrugna Kaikai Suta. I will not sing the entire thing. I have already covered it in detail. The beauty of this Abhanga is that something I have covered when I narrated Samartha Ramdas's story. He starts off saying Sundarate Dhyanu Shobhe Simhasini. It is such a beautiful sight to see Rama on the Simhasan. Vamangi Nandini Janakachi. Vamangi, Vama means Vama Bhaga is left. Dakshina Bhaga is right. Okay? So that is why it's called as Pradakshina. When you do a Pradakshina, whatever you're doing is you are circumambulating, looking and moving towards your right. So the god is always in your right. That is why it is like this clockwise. Okay? Pradakshina. Going towards the Dakshina, going towards the right side. That is what it means. So Vamangi Nandini Janakachi, he mentioned Sita once, he mentioned Rama once. The Dakshinesi Ubha Bandhu Lakshmana, on the Dakshin side, on the right side is Lakshmana, he mentioned him once. And then he says Bharata Shatrugna Kaikai Suta. Okay, no, Bharata, Shatrugna he mentions once, and he again says Kaikai Suta. Bharata is already Kaikai Suta. Kaikai had only one son, Bharata, right? So Bharata and Kaikai Suta, he had to mention twice. Senior Vyakhyankar, when they do a pravachan, they say it is not enough to mention Bharata once. You have to give that respect because he was such a great devotee. You have to mention him as once as a brother, and then you have to mention him once as a devotee. So you have to give him that respect. You have to call him for twice. That's how important Bharata was, and his devotion is unparalleled. That is the kind of brother that Bharata was. So elders over there, they say we have to now do the cremation. They do the cremation, the Shraddha Karya, that is the rituals that are to be done for 13 days. Shraddha means what? Then a lot of people keep asking, do we need to really do Shraddha? Shraddha it comes from a root called Shraddha. Okay? That which is done out of devotion, one. The other meaning for it is out of faith. Because we cannot see the dead, because we cannot see them alive, because we cannot see how they look or what they look or what is it their requirements, but we are still supposed to take care of responsibility in the faith that our gurus have told us that they need our help. That act is called as Shraddha. Okay? So Shraddha requires faith. Shraddha requires devotion. So anything that is done with Shraddha, this particular ritual needs a lot of Shraddha with which it needs to be done. So I need to take care of my parents and ancestors when they are alive. I need to take care of them even when they have gone. That is my duty. As a progeny, that is my duty. So Bharata does that. Bharata and Shatrugna as brothers do that. And then Bharata is no hellbent of going and calling Rama back. So everybody is happy. Looking at Bharata's resolve, the amount of resolve that he has and determination, he's saying, I'm not going to be the king at all. I'm going to ensure that Rama comes back. Everybody is elated. Bharata goes and asks, Rama is going to come back. Everybody is very happy. Kaikeyi also has toned down. She has now understood this. She's lost her beloved husband, right? At the end of the day, Manthara had got nothing to lose. Kaikeyi lost, right? Kaikeyi lost Bharata. She also lost Bharata as a son because he no more respects her. So she's now already taken a beating. She's mellowed down. Now everybody is happy. Now everybody wants to come. So who all come? Bharata, Shatrugna, mothers, their wives, all the ministers, the entire ministerial gang, and his army, and even all the Nagarvasi, all the people from the town. Everybody now starts off on the journey. Now they reach Ganga. And when they reach Ganga, at a distance they see Guha and his entire chief and the boatman community. And Bharata and ministers and everybody is standing on this side. Okay, there's some distance over there. Guha asks his assistant, who's this? Guha says, well, this looks like Bharata and his entire retinue, but they seem to be here with army. So Guha asks, is Bharata going to go and kill Rama? Is that the intention? Even as they're discussing this and they're kind of contemplating this, Bharata also asked Vasishtha as to who's this? Who's the person who's standing in the front? So Vasishtha says, this seems to be Guha. Sumantra seems to have met him. So Sumantra, why don't you tell who he is? So Sumantra starts off saying, Guha, he is Guha. He owns both the banks of Ganga, this bank and this bank both. He has innumerable boats. He has this much amount of wealth, and this is the way Sumantra starts introducing. Bharata is not even listening, he's not even interested. He's a king, right? I mean, he's a prince. He's not even interested in these qualities. Sumantra then realizes this is not the way to introduce. He then stops and he says, he is the one whom Rama himself embraced and called him that you are my fifth brother. No, Bharata suddenly has tears in his eyes. He says, my God, such a blessed soul Guha is. He has helped my brother in crossing Ganga, and with tears in his eyes he starts running towards Guha. So Bharata is running towards Guha, and Guha is seeing him. He says, this can't be the man who can come to kill Rama. He's got his tears in his eyes and he's so pure, he looks so pure, he doesn't have any sign of deceit at all. And he also starts walking ahead, and Bharata and Guha embrace each other. And then Guha says, Bharata, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you were here to kill Rama. And that is the reason you got your army. He said, no, I'm not here to kill Rama, I'm here to give something to Rama. So Bharata says, Guha says, what is it that you can give? Rama has everything. He is the person who owns the entire world. So he says, sorry, I used the wrong word. I have not come to give something to Rama, I have come here to return something to Rama. So then they said, what is it that you want to return? He's saying, I want to give him back what is due to him, his kingdom. I don't want. I will go and stay for 14 years if my mother wants, but I don't want Rama to stay there. I want to return back the kingdom that is rightfully his. After listening to all this, Guha says this. Guha says, you, Bharata, you belong to an amazing, illustrious family of Ikshvaku and Raghu. Ikshvaku, Raghu, Dilipa, Bhagirath, Sagara, Shibi, each of them, Harishchandra, each of them are stories that can get covered in 2 or 3 sessions. That is the kind of the illustriousness that they have. Shibi is a person who was about to give his life for the justice to be given to a dove, to a pigeon. Okay, that is the kind of dharma life that they led. You belong to such an illustrious family, you have surpassed even them, he says. He goes on to say, he says, if you were to be kept on one side of a weighing scale, I will have to keep not 1, 2, 50, 100, I will have to keep 1,000. Who? Rama. 1,000 Ramas on the other side to be equal to you, Bharata. You have surpassed even your brother when it comes to dharma, he says. Bharata gets into his camp where Guha is staying. And the first thing he asks, where did my brother sit? What did he eat? Where did he sleep? So Guha shows this is where he sat, this is what he did, this is where he slept. And then he asks, where did Lakshmana sleep? And then he asks, where did you sleep? He says Lakshmana didn't sleep. Lakshmana was acting like a security for Rama, so he didn't sleep. So he said, where did you sleep then? So he said, no, I was along with Lakshmana because I wanted to protect Lakshmana. He then goes on to ask, what about your subjects? He said, even they didn't sleep because I was awake, even they didn't sleep. So only basically Rama and Sita slept that night. Bharata doesn't ask where Sita slept because when he sees Rama and he sees this place around, I have said this in the last time also, he doesn't ask where Sita slept. He could see where Sita slept because Sita apparently had a hue, a golden hue, and that golden hue had already fallen into the hay. He said, this is where my mother Sita has slept. This is a beautiful relationship. One of the most 2 beautiful relationships, and probably undoubtedly the best relationship. All relationships are great, okay? But one of the best of the relationships that can be enjoyed is father and daughter, and the second is Devar and Bhabi. Okay, Devar and Bhabi relationship is just the sweetest possible relationship that God could have ever thought of. The elder brother gets the kingdom, the elder brother gets all the attention, even today. The elder brother gets all the petting, all the responsibility, all the attention in a family. But the younger brother gets the most beautiful thing. He gets a bhabi, right? He gets a sister-in-law, bhabi, who's equivalent to another mother. And this is an amazing relationship. Bharata feels the same for Sita. Right? He cries. He says that girl who was to become the princess, the queen of this land, had to sleep on this hay, and he cries. He cries. This is what they will have to do for the next 14 years. I am not going to allow that at all. Guha is also very elated, looking at Bharata's resolve, looking at his determination, looking at his josh. He says, okay, I think Rama is going to really come back. And everybody is so convinced. Bharata has convinced everybody. So they all know, Guha does this. Okay, Guha asks, you have introduced yourself, Bharata, you should also introduce others. So he introduces everybody else and he then introduces his mothers. He says, who's this lady? So he says, this is the first and the most important queen of my father, Dasharatha. This is Kaushalya. She is the person who's the mother of Sri Ram. Such is her fortune. She is the mother-in-law of Sita. Such is a great fortune, he says. He says, Vyakhyankar spent some time on this. He says when he uses mother of Rama, he says only fortune. But when he says Sita's mother-in-law, he says such is a great fortune, Mahabhagya. Okay? So that is the kind of Kaushalya that she is. Then he moves his hand towards the next mother, and that is Sumitra. She says, this is the wisest of our family. This is the mother of Lakshmana and Shatrughna. The sons who were born and given only for service. Right? Shatrughna and Lakshmana are kind of brothers that you will not find on face of earth at all. Again, God has just forgotten the formula. Okay? He just doesn't know how to create another Lakshmana, another Shatrughna. Younger brothers, and if there can ever be a younger brother of that kind, there can only be Lakshmana and Shatrughna. There can be just no other. I have said this earlier also. There is a saying in Hindi, शायद राम भी एक और जन्म ले ले, but Lakshman तो अलग से और एक मिलेगा ही नहीं. There can be no other Lakshmana at all. There's only one Lakshmana that can be made by God. So such is the mother Sumitra, who gave birth to such beautiful sons and who were brought up with that culture. And then he moves his hand towards the third lady and he says, this is the cruel lady. He doesn't even call his mother. He says, this is the cruel lady, the root cause of all the distress and the problem our family is facing. Guha says, no, you're not supposed to introduce your mother like this. She still continues to be her mother. She did what she did, but you're still supposed to be considering as mother, is what Guha advises her. All of them now move across the across the river Ganga and go to the other bank. And they start moving towards Bharadwaj ashram. How do you approach a sant? How do you approach a saint? How do you approach a rishi? Something that Bharata of course knows. He has been brought up and trained under the great sage Vasishtha himself. He first leaves all his army, gets down with his horse chariot. He leaves all the people and army behind. Only the mothers and the ministers and all of them walk. He then leaves the ministers and mother also at a particular place, and only Vasishtha, Shatrughna and himself, they walk towards the ashram, they pay the respect, they do namaskar. Bharadwaja asks this. Bharadwaja says, welcome Bharata, are you here to kill Rama? That is the first question that Bharadwaja also asks. Though Vyakhyankar has spent a lot of time explaining this, I am not getting into the details. Bharadwaja is a rishi, he is a Sarvagnya Murti, right? He of course knows Rama's avatar, the purpose of Rama's avatar. He knows the play of this. All is a sport. It's a leela, right? But still, Bharadwaja ends up asking. And why does he ask that question? He asks that question so that the character of Bharata gets accentuated. The reason why he is come, his devotion, the reason why he would go this length to get Rama back has to be made known to people, and that is the reason Bharadwaja Rishi asks that question. That is the purpose that Vyakhyankar say. They stay there, and then Bharadwaja Rishi says they are on the banks of Mandakini, they must be on the mountain, you will find them there. So, all the entire gang then move towards Chitrakoot. As they are moving, it's a huge retinue, it's a huge army, right? As they are throwing up a lot of dust. Now they are at a vantage point. Lakshmana, Rama, Sita are at a vantage point, and they can see a lot of area in front of them. And they see a lot of smoke and dust rising at a distance. So Rama says, Lakshmana, what is that? What is the dust that's rising? It seems like a big group of people who seem to be coming. Why don't you climb a tree and see which flag it is? So those days, chariots used to have flag, and each flag used to have their own sign. Okay, I don't know if you all have watched Game of Thrones. There's something called as a sigil, right? Every family used to have a sigil. So they used to have, some used to have eagle, some used to have lion. So similarly, our culture also, we had flags which, just by seeing the flag, you will know whose chariot it is or whose army is coming. So Bharata will have a different flag, Dasharatha had a different flag. Okay, so different people will have different flags. So in Mahabharata, Arjuna had a different flag, in Yudhishthira will have a different flag, Bhima will have a different flag. So if you have to wage a war, you have to get into a duel with somebody, you will search for the flag and then go towards that. Okay, that's how you will recognize. That's basically to be able to recognize, so the others can recognize who's coming in that chariot. So when Lakshmana goes up, he sees that it is Bharata's chariot, and he sees a lot of people, huge crowd, and with a lot of arms, and that's how the army is moving, right? So Lakshmana is shouting from there, Rama, Bhaiya, get in, get Sita Maya also in, go in, go in. Lakshmana, Rama says, what happened? What is the issue? Tell me what is the issue? You come down first. So no, you don't know. Bharata is coming to kill us. He is coming to wage a war on us. Such a selfish brother he is. Rama gets very angry when he listens to this. He says, Lakshmana, you should stop this immediately. It is my Bharata. And I know the purpose why he is coming. If Bharata is coming, he is coming here to give the kingdom back to me. I know the purpose why he is coming. You, for uttering such ill words to your own brother, is very wrong. And it seems, he goes on to say, it seems the fact that you have lost the kingdom and you are staying with me in the forest seems to have made you cruel and jealous about your brother. If you so long for the kingdom, the moment Bharata comes, I will ask him to give the kingdom to you. You can go back to the kingdom, I will keep Bharata with me. Lakshmana immediately mellows down. He says, no, that is not what I meant. It is just that he is coming with an army, and what else will I think? The only other thing I can think of is that he is coming to kill you. But Bharata is not like that. So Bharata comes. The moment Bharata comes, so this is a portion which will constitute the Bharat Mila. Okay. Bharata comes at a distance. He sees Rama standing, and he runs towards him with tears in his eyes. And he runs and straight dashes to his feet and falls at his feet. The photograph that I sent on the group today is the one where Rama is lifting Bharata from that position. He's fallen at his feet, is lifting. Generally, when you hunt on net and you look at Bharat Mila as a picture, you will generally find Bharata and Rama embracing each other. Okay, that is what is generally the standard pictorial depiction of Bharat Mila. I wanted to have this particular picture where Bharata has fallen at Rama's feet, and my aunt from Delhi luckily sent me that. I couldn't find my aunt from Delhi had sent me this, and that is the reason I posted that. It's a beautiful moment where Bharata falls at Rama's feet and Rama lifts him and then embraces him. That's what has happened. So they embrace and Rama kisses Bharata on his forehead. There are rules for everything in our culture. There are rules even as to where an elder can kiss his child. Okay, cheek is not allowed. It is always supposed to be on the forehead. Okay, that is the place where even parents can kiss their children. Okay, I thought I should just tell. So Rama kisses Bharata on his forehead, and then they sit. And Bharata is in all tears. He's saying, Rama, I am so sorry that you had to go through all this trouble, and because of my mother. But you have to know, right away come with me. Come back and take the kingdom. I don't want this kingdom at all. This is not what I was ever made. I am there only to serve you. Rama says, no, that's not possible, Bharata. Our father gave us an order, and it is my duty to serve the order. Bharata now says, the person who gave you the order itself is not there. He's gone to Swargalok. He's gone to the heavens. That is the first time Rama hears that his father is no more. He's saying, he completely gets into, he's in shock, he doesn't even know how to react. When Bharata holds him and tells him again, this is what has happened, he starts weeping. He weeps like a child. Now Vyakhyankar again spent some time on this. Rama is God himself, right? Why will God himself cry? And Rama has been taught by Vasishtha, he's been taught by Vasishtha even the Advaitic principles. Death is not the end for us in our dharma itself. We all know death is not the end, it's just the beginning for another janma. Right? So why did Rama cry? Rama, we need to understand, is in a Purusha avatar. He's come down as an avatar, but he said, I will behave, look like a human. I will have no superpowers. I will learn all the kala of warfare, but I will behave, look and feel like a human, and I'll emote like a human being. When a person loses his father and when that news comes suddenly, any person, the way he would behave is how Rama behaved, right? So he's basically playing his role. See, at the end of the day, this is a role play, right? Vishnu knows what he's doing. It's a role play. But when you play the role, when we watch a drama, when we watch a serial, when somebody dies and if somebody is emoting well, we say, wow, look at the way he's emoted, then you get connected to the story, right? That is how Rama cried. He cried like a child. He not only cries at this moment, he also cries when Sita gets kidnapped. He again cries like a child. He goes berserk, he goes to the trees, he goes to the birds, he goes to the animals. He's saying, have you seen my Sita? Have you seen my Sita? Now that's the way he is actually crying. Where can get spent again the same amount of time. They say that Rama did that because he's in an avatar as a human, and it is a bhushan. It is the quality of a human to cry when somebody close to him is lost. So that is the reason Rama cries. Of course, after a while, he is consoled by none other than Vasishtha himself. And he says, you have to finish your duty. Bharata has done his Shraddha duty. You as the eldest son also have to do the duty. So Rama goes and is just about to give the Pindadan and the Tilodhara. Tilodhara is what? Tilka Dhar. Okay, you do this. Just about to do that. We think only in our Kali Yuga or our friends we have atheists or people who question why to do Shraddha. You give Pindadan here and it goes to him, they get to eat there. What stupidity is this? I would rather do the Annadan to poor people, at least they can eat. This is going to nobody. These are the logics. And we think we have invented these logics. Rama, Dasharatha had a minister in his ministerial in the group of ministers who was called as Jabali. He was an atheist. Okay, even in Rama's time there were atheists. People seeing Rama also, people still were atheists. I mean, having seen Rama, I don't know how one can be an atheist at all. But there were atheists, and he actually chides Rama. He says, this is there in Valmiki Ramayana. He says, what is the use of you doing Pindadan? You are wise enough, just giving rice over here. Do you think it's going to reach your father? Your father has already reached Swargalok. Rama then explains himself as to the reason why one should do. He said, this rice is not going to reach. This rice that I am going to do is to be given to Mother Earth. It is going to reach the insects, the crows, the animals, the birds in this lok. The mantra with which I am going to do this, the resultant benefit of having done this because of the mantropadesh will then go to my ancestors. So it is not the Pindadan that goes to the ancestors. The result, the benefit of having done along with the mantras, that benefit will reach them. That will give them peace, and that will ensure that their souls are rested in peace. Sorry, souls don't get rested in peace, they attain peace. So then that is how the souls attain peace, and hence the mantras are important along with the ritual. It seems in Mahabharata, Bhishma, the Shantanu has died. Okay, Shantanu is Bhishma's father. I am presuming you are broadly aware of the contours of Mahabharata. Bhishma is doing a Shraddha. Shantanu comes in soul form and tells Bhishma that instead of giving the Pindadan to the Mother Earth, give it in my hand. Okay? Bhishma refuses. He says the Shastra suggests that this Pindadan has to go to Mother Earth. Okay? And you will only get the benefit of this to you. I will not give this Pindadan to you in your hand for you to eat. No, that is not what Shastras say. I will have to give this to Mother Earth with mantras required for that. The benefit of that will then reach you. Karna, it seems after his death, he goes to Swargalok. And he's been served. He's done so much of dan, right? He's done so much of dan. He's done so much of donations. Danavir Karna is what we call him, right? And zero attachment to the dan that he does. I've covered a few stories while covering Karna in the earlier seasons. It seems he goes and he's served food. Now the food that is served is all jewels and diamonds and gold coins. So Karna asked, how can I eat this? I cannot eat this. But God said that, but that is the dan that you have done. You've never done Annadan, you've never done Pindadan at all. You've never done Shraddha to your ancestors. How can I feed you? Is what God asked. You have done dan of coins, gold, jewels, diamonds, platinum, whatever, and that is what you will get to eat. Karna says, sorry, I've done a great mistake. Now how do I rectify that? So they allow him to come back. And those days when Karna comes back is considered to be the Pitur Paksha. This is one of the Upakatha, this is one of the stories for Pitur Paksha. That 15 days where Karna comes back, he does Pindadan, he does Shraddha, those 15 days, and then he comes back and then he gets food. That's that important. So people who say that I don't have to feed my ancestors, there's a good chance that we also, when we go there, we might also not get food. Okay, so it is an important thing that I wanted to cover. So this is just Upakatha I wanted to cover, the importance of Shraddha to be done. Rama does that dutifully as a rightful, beautiful son, he does that. Now Bharata is sitting and he's saying, now Rama, everything is done, you have to come, there is no chance that you can't come. Rama says, no brother, I cannot come with you. You'll have to rule the kingdom. A kingdom cannot be headless. It has to have a king in its place. Bharata completely refuses. He said, you are the only rightful king. I am not going to rule as a king at all. At best, I am going to rule only as your representative. You give me something from your side which I can keep on the throne, and I will sit by the side and as a representative rule Ayodhya only for 14 years for you to come back and rightfully take back what is yours. I will only be doing it as a representative and I will not be ruling it as a king at all. So Rama says it's okay. This is something that is an acceptable middle way, right? Because I cannot come, he is not ready to rule. There has to be a middle way. So he's saying that's okay. Then I will give you my paduka. Okay? So he asks Lakshmana to get his padukas. Padukas are basically what? Slippers, right? Gets his padukas. He wears it, he sanctifies it, and he then gives it to Bharata. I'll just take a quick break and explain the mahatva, the importance of paduka. Okay, and this is very important. Vedanta Deshikam is one of the saints in the Vaishnava Sampradaya who has written a lot of books. One of his works is Paduka Sahasram. He has written 1,000 benefits, 1,000 important things about Paduka. Okay, so what happened, it seems, is in Vaikuntha, Vishnu was sleeping on the Shesh Shayan, right? Sheshnag, he sleeps on that snake. The snake hood is on his head. Everybody is aware of the Gajendra Moksha story, right? Where the elephant, the crocodile bites the elephant and elephant cries for Vishnu, and then Vishnu comes and gives darshan and saves it, right? This is the Gajendra Moksha story. Everybody is aware of it. Vishnu is sleeping and Gajendra has called him. Vishnu in a hurry, he just runs. Okay, that's how Vishnu reacts, right? He just runs. And he leaves his chakra, his shankha, his paduka, everything on the Sheshnag, and he just runs. As soon as he runs, Sheshnag, the shankha and the chakra, these three start mocking the paduka. Okay? Now they say, your work is only to be in the foot, you are just not anything in front of us. Look at us. Vishnu holds us in his hand, and Sheshnag says, I am looking over his head. We are so important. You are nothing. And they start teasing. Typical, when you have 4 or 5 people around you, one of them gets bullied, right? So it's the Paduka who's getting bullied. So Paduka is in all tears. By the time Vishnu comes back, Vishnu realizes that he's gone without any of this. So he comes back, he takes all this, goes, does the Gajendra Moksha bit, and then comes back. And he comes back and he sees Paduka is still unhappy, he is crying. So he talks to Paduka and he says, what happened? Why are you crying? He's saying, when you had gone briefly, all these 3 people were teasing me and they were making a mock of me, saying I can only be at the foot of Vishnu, and that is where my life is. Am I not lifting your entire burden? Am I not doing service to you, Vishnu? Is what Paduka asks. Vishnu says, of course, and you are doing a very great service, and probably a greater service than all of this put together. We will teach them a lesson. There will come a time when I will teach them a lesson, he says. There will be an avatar which I will take on Bhulok, and after that, you will get the importance that is due to you, he says. What happens? It is the Paduka that gets lifted by Bharata and Lakshmana. Bharata lifts where? He keeps it on his head and carries all the way till Ayodhya. And who's Bharata? Bharata is the chakra, the shankha, right? He is a shankha avatar. So it's the same shankha, chakra and Sheshnag, all the 3 brothers who respect Rama's paduka. Paduka has got a lot of mahima. Paduka has got a lot of mahatva even in bhakti marga, even in the Guru marga. Paduka are nirguna, okay? So generally this is what happens, okay? Generally what happens is when I follow a particular guru, somebody else follows a different guru, I have a photo of a particular guru, you will always generally find, oh, this guru, okay, he is your guru, but he is not my guru. This is guru bhed that happens. All gurus are the same tattva. People fail to realize that. There is always this guru abhiman. My guru is greater than yours. We've seen in all guru stories, we've seen multiple cases where this happens, right? They don't realize that all gurus are the same. But one thing which removes the bhed, the differentiation from gurus, it is a paduka. So if you see a paduka, even if a person is a disciple of some other guru or a Y guru, they will see their own guru's paduka there, right? So that paduka becomes, when I am doing namaskar, it becomes my guru's paduka. Somebody does namaskar, it becomes his guru's paduka. It is only about my feeling. I am looking at it as a paduka of my guru. And that is why Guru Paduka has got immense importance. Today Ganesh shared with me in our group, he shared with me a list of Padukas. I'll probably try and share it on the group also. Various Padukas of different saints and different gods. Okay, so Paduka has got a lot of importance and it removes the Guru Bheda. It removes the differentiation that we lesser mortals end up doing about our gurus. For us, when it becomes Paduka, it is Paduka of our Guru. Guru, it can be whoever Guru it is, right? So that is the importance of Paduka. And this, Vedanta Deshikam covers in 1,000 different benefits of having a Paduka at home, the importance of Paduka. Something again, an important work. Now Rama has convinced Bharata somehow to take Paduka. Kaushalya, Sumitra, Kaikeyi, everybody they come. Kaushalya comes and asks, looks at Sita and she starts crying. She says, and this is something that all of us who have children, all of us who have sons should remember. Some point of time we'll become in-laws, we'll have daughter-in-laws coming to our houses. Daughter-in-law who comes into our house is a huge responsibility. That daughter-in-law should never ever shed a tear of sorrow. She should only shed a tear of, am I audible? Yeah? She should only shed a tear of happiness. She should never ever shed a tear of sorrow. Kaushalya actually says this, we got you with lot of happiness, but we because of us you had to shed tear in our house, and that has been the reason for the fall of our family. That's what she says. A daughter-in-law, when she sheds a tear in the house, it will be the beginning of the fall of the house. So all who have got sons to be careful. When they get daughter-in-law, they should ensure that they keep their daughter-in-laws happy. It's an immense responsibility, and that person has to be happy. When that person becomes happy, the entire house becomes happy. Of course, the daughter-in-law also is supposed to take care of the in-laws. Okay, Sita was that kind of a daughter-in-law who took care of her in-laws. Right? So today we see stories of both kinds. So this is how the Bharat Milap happens, and this is an important parva. Okay, and then Bharata leaves with Paduka on his head, and the entire retinue leave for Ayodhya. This Bharat Milap is important. Why it is important? Because people who hear or listen to it or read this parva or this segment of the story, any problems in the house, if you have a house, there will always be problems, right? And problems could be between brothers, fathers, mothers, sisters, relations, friends, could be any relationship issues. All those relationship issues will get resolved because Bharat Milap is a time when the biggest of the misunderstandings got resolved. The misunderstanding everybody had about Kaikeyi, the misunderstanding that Kaikeyi had about others, the misunderstanding that everybody had about Bharata gets resolved. There is a happy reunion that happens. Yes, they get separated, but now they all are mentally happy, right? That sorrow, that ill feeling towards each other, that fact that somebody is gone and left and we are in distress, all of that is gone. Everything has got resolved, all the issues have got resolved. So hopefully, all of us should pray that by having listened to Bharat Milap's story, that all our problems in our relations, all our issues amongst ourselves should get resolved and we attain familial peace. There should be peace in family always. And I hope and pray that all of us attain the same peace. We'll take the story a little ahead and then leave it, because that will ensure that I'll end up with the Aranya Kand. The Ayodhya Kand. What Rama does is, after these people have gone, let me cover the story of what happens to Bharata, because that is where, that's a short story. What happens to Rama is what now remains in the story, right? So Bharata and all of them have gone back. Bharata doesn't enter Ayodhya. He settles in a small town near Ayodhya, which is still there today, called Nandigram. Okay? He settles there, he builds a hut for himself, he keeps the Paduka on a chair there, and he says, me and my wife will stay here, we will not enter Ayodhya for the next 14 years. We will live same like Rama is living in the forest like a hermit, like a Svanavasi. We will also live for all 14 years in a penance mode. We will conduct all the affairs of the kingdom, but we will do it from here. So the capital of Ayodhya has got shifted to Nandigram, right? So they are living there like hermits, like they're doing the penance. End of the day, Kaikeyi didn't earn anything, right? Kaikeyi ensured that Rama goes, Lakshmana goes, Sita goes. She also lost her husband. She lost also her Bharata as a son. Son also doesn't come back to Ayodhya. He also lives in the same manner in which Rama lives there in the forest. Shatrughna comes back with Shrutakirti. Bharata with Mandavi stays. Shrutakirti and Shatrughna come back. They take care of their parents. Vasishtha is there, Sumantra is there. And that is how their 14 years happen. For us, 14 years are yet to happen. We will now catch on with Rama. Rama, what happens in Chitrakoot is, as they are living there, he's only thinking about his father, the grief of having lost his father, the happiness and lost his brother. He met his brother, those memories are again hitting him. So he's saying, I cannot stay here anymore, Lakshmana. Let us shift deeper into the forest. Now they shift deeper into the forest, which is what? The Dandaka Aranya. Naimisharanya is the other name. As per the Vaishnava Sampradaya, this whole forest is Vishnu Swarup. Okay? Because Rama stayed there, Naimisharanya, even if you go and stay there for 1 minute, we will attain moksha. Okay? That is the belief of Vaishnavas. Naimisharanya. Naimish means ek minute ke liye bhi agar jaake wahan rahe, just for a minute also you go and stay there, you will attain moksha. So that whole place is a Vishnu Kshetra, and Vishnu's form, it is in form of a forest. Okay? That is where they go deeper. Now is the time when they will also meet a lot of rishis. They will also go on to kill Viradha, one of the demons. What we'll do is we'll stop the story here today and then pick up the story from this time. Then we'll get on to Panchavati, then Shurpanaka, and then all of this will start coming in, right? Karadushana, then Sita getting picked up. All of that is going to start coming. It's going to come. So we'll finish off. This is where the Ayodhya Kand ends. So we have finished with 2 Kands. That is Ayodhya Kand and Balakand is something that we are done with. From the next session, we'll start off with Aranya Kand. Yeah? I hope I was totally audible. I thought I had missed on my network for a while. No? Okay. Excellent, Ganesh. Thanks a lot. Any questions you all want to ask? Feel free. Otherwise, we'll start off with Hanuman Chalisa. Yes, Arjun? Yeah. That is because all those days are working days for me, dear. And I get free only in the night around 8:30. So, and I hardly have any energy to tell a story. I hardly have any energy to even eat food. So, Sundays is the best time. Yeah? Okay, thank you. But I would want you to attend all the sessions. You've got such keen interest, I would surely want you to attend all the sessions. Nahi mat. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Oh, Salil. You can do that. Yes, you can simplify him and tell him. Right. Correct. And makes sense, current Kaikai stories, sometimes it appeals more to elders than to children. And what happens, it also has become a little more difficult to make it appealable to a child because the stories also are a little more complex in that sense. So, to me, thoda soppa karun, if you can tell it to Arjun, it is nothing like it. Very nice. Great. Any other questions you all have? Correct. Right. It is very important. I don't think Arjun will lose interest. I think he's got great interest. So, very heartening to see that. Any other questions you all will have? Okay, thanks Punamji. We'll start off with Hanuman Chalisa. Shri Guru Charana Saroj Raja Nigamana Mukura Sudhari Varanau Raghuvar Bimal Jasu Joda बलचारी, बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरो पवन कुमार। बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहे हरऊ क्लेश विकार। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर, जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर। रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा, अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा। महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी, कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी। कंचन वरन विराज सुबेसा, कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा। हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे, कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे। शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन, तेज प्रताप महाजगबंदन। विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर, राम काज करिबे को आतुर। प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया, राम लखन सीता मन बसिया। सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा, विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे, रामचंद्र के काज समारे। लाए सजीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई। सहस बदन तुमरो यश गावे, अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा, नारद सारद सहित अहिसा। जम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहांते, कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीन्हा, राम मिलाए राजपद दीना। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। जुग सहस्र योजन पर भानु, लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि, चल दिलांग गए अचरज नाहि। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुमरे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, क्या बिनु पैसारे। सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी सरना, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज सम्हारो आपै, तीनों लोक हाँकते कापै। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासे रोग हरै सब पीड़ा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा। हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोहि अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा है, प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्तन धरहि, हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करहि। संकट कटै मिटै सब पीड़ा, जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। ये शतबार पाठ करे कोई, छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरिचेरा, कीजय नाथ हृदय मह डेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्त रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुर भूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय।
के बोलो हनुमान की
जय।